You ever get the feeling that your life is about to turn into a sitcom and you're the punchline? Yeah, that's how my story starts. I'll never forget at 5 in the morning, dead of winter snow, slamming sideways against my bedroom window like it had a personal vendetta. And my first thought, not cozy up under the covers. No, I was thinking I'd better drag out the damn snowblower before I got trapped in my own driveway. Classic Minnesota logic. So there I am, boots on thick coat, barely zipped, already regretting every decision that landed me in Briarwood Heights, a neighborhood where, honest to God, there were rules about how tall your grass could get before you got fined. The place was supposed to be my fresh start after the divorce. Peaceful, quiet, predictable. The kind of place where nothing ever happened except maybe a bake sale scandal. Boy, was I wrong. Now, if you've never lived somewhere with an HOA, let me paint the picture. Briarwood Heights was the kind of planned community where they planned the joy right out of you. Nice house, sure. Decent neighbors, mostly. But it was like living inside a rule book with windows. That morning, as I wrestled my stubborn Husqvarna snowblower out of the garage, I had no idea I was about to step straight into a blizzard of pettiness that would end up changing my whole damn life. The machine roared to life loud enough to wake the dead. But hey, that's what snowblowers do, right? I'd cleared about half my driveway when I spotted her Karen Mitchell storming across the street in her pink bathrobe and duck boots. Blonde hair up in curlers, looking like she was about to throw down with the weather itself. If you don't know a Karen, congratulations. But this one, she was the HOA president, and she ruled those 43 houses like a queen with a clipboard. She was shrieking at me before she'd even reached my driveway. "Excuse me, sir. Do you have any idea what time it is?" She stuck her phone in my face like it was the sword of justice. "It is 5:23 in the morning, and you are violating the community noise ordinance. Snow's coming down so hard you can't see 3 feet, but that's not the emergency. The emergency is me trying to make sure I can get to work. Ma'am, if I don't do this now, I'll be late." Or stuck. I'm trying to reason with her, you know. "Nope." She's scrolling through her phone looking for the exact line in the HOA handbook, like Moses with the tablets about not operating heavy machinery before 7 a.m. Section 12, subsection B, she recited, triumphant. I was honestly impressed by her dedication, if not her priorities. I wanted to argue. God, did I want to argue. But I also needed my job, and my boss wasn't exactly the compassionate type. "Fine. I'll wait until 7, I said. She gave a little nod, proud as a peacock, and marched home. I stood there, watching the snow fill in everything I'd just cleared, questioning every choice that had brought me to this moment. Middle-aged, freezing, and losing a battle with both the elements and the local tyrant. At exactly 7, I fired up the snowblower again. By then, there was a foot of snow on the ground, and what should have taken me 20 minutes took nearly an hour. I was late for work anyway. My boss noticed, and I didn't even bother explaining. People who've never lived under the iron fist of an HOA just don't get it. That night, there's a letter taped to my front door, official letterhead, and everything informing me I'd been cited for operating power equipment outside permitted hours and summoned to the next HOA meeting for a hearing. I crumpled the letter, tossed it on the kitchen counter, and poured myself a double. This was my life now, fighting with middle-aged suburban commandos about when I could shovel snow. Over the next week, it snowed 3 more times. Every morning, I waited until exactly 7. And every morning, I could see Karen lurking at her window phone, ready just waiting for me to slip up. The neighbors started giving me that look, half sympathy, half welcome to the club. Turns out everyone had a Karen story. My neighbor Dale, good guy, bit of a smartass, told me how she fined him $200 because his Christmas lights were too blue. Didn't match the community aesthetic, he said, rolling his eyes. Best advice: keep your head down. But I'm not built that way. The night of the HOA meeting, I walked into the community center to find about 15 people in folding chairs, staring up at the long table where Karen and the other board members sat like judges at a reality TV audition. Karen was dressed for War Navy blazer pearls, the whole bit. The other board members looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. Let's call this meeting to order, Karen said, banging a gavel like she was Judge Judy. First up, violation hearing for William Osborne. That's me. Mr. Osborne, you are cited for operating a snowblower at 5:23 a.m. How do you plead? I almost laughed. This isn't a court. We operate under Robert's Rules of Order, she replied. Do you dispute the citation? Yeah, I do. It was snowing. I needed to get to work. Karen produced a photo, passing it down the table like evidence. I have proof, she said triumphantly. Greg, one of the board members, peered at it. Looks like a guy with a snowblower. Tom, another board member, just shrugged. The guy needed to clear his driveway. It was a blizzard. But Karen was unmoved. Rules are rules. If we let one person break them, chaos. Linda, the book club lady, timidly suggested, maybe we should revise the policy. We're not here to revise policy. We're here to enforce it, Karen snapped. You're fined $150 payable within 30 days. I was furious. You're fining me for trying to get to work? You're being fined for violating the noise ordinance, Karen corrected like I was a misbehaving child. I went home, poured myself another drink, and started reading the HOA bylaws like my life depended on it. If Karen wanted a fight, she was going to get one. 2 weeks later, the blizzard of the decade hit. The neighborhood was buried. I waited until exactly 7 to fire up the snowblower. It took 3 hours to clear my driveway and sidewalk. When I was finally done, I noticed Karen's car was still entombed in her driveway, and actually most folks on the street were stuck too. I barely had time to thaw out before my doorbell rang. There's Karen, not angry for once, she looked worried. I need to borrow your snowblower, she said straight to the point. Turns out Mrs. Henderson at the end of the street, 87 years old, needed to get to the pharmacy for her heart medication, and the roads weren't plowed. Why don't you use your own? I asked, honestly curious. I usually hire a service. They're all booked. I stood there letting the irony really soak in. You fined me for using my snowblower too early, and now you want to borrow it? It's an emergency, she pleaded. I should have told her to go pound sand, but I'm not that guy, and Mrs. Henderson didn't deserve to be collateral damage in a neighborhood turf war. Fine, I said, but I'm doing this for Mrs. Henderson, not you. It took me 2 hours to clear a path to the main road. By the time I finished, I could barely feel my hands, but I'd done the right thing, or so I thought. A couple hours later, Karen was back. We'd like to hire you as the community snow removal contractor for the rest of the winter. $500 per storm. I nearly choked. You're joking. We'll waive your fine. And we'll revise the ordinance so snow removal is allowed at any hour during active snowfall. Now you have to understand Karen never did anything unless it benefited her. But $500 a storm was good money. And if it meant not fighting about snow every week, well, I got it all in writing. The contract, the revised ordinance, even fuel reimbursement. I thought maybe, just maybe, things would settle down. For a while they did. I became the guy with the snowblower. People started waving at me, leaving coffee on their porches while I worked. It felt good being needed. Hell, I was even making friends. Dale started inviting me over for dinner, and for the first time since the divorce, I didn't feel alone. But then, of course, came the big one. Over 30 inches in a day. I worked nonstop, but my snowblower wasn't built for this. It broke down, and before I could figure out what to do, Karen was on the phone, threatening to sue me for breach of contract if I didn't clear the streets. Never mind that my equipment was literally out of commission. Desperate, I called every rental place in town. Nothing. Finally, I reached out to Mike, a dealer I knew in Rochester. He laughed, told me Karen had already called, trying to get him to send someone. That woman's a piece of work, he said. But he lent me a commercial-grade snowblower, and I worked through the night clearing every street in Briarwood Heights. Finished at 3 a.m., absolutely dead on my feet. Next morning, Karen calls. We've received complaints about noise disturbance last night. You violated the ordinance. I lost it. You threatened to sue me if I didn't finish. You can't have it both ways. Board is issuing you a citation. And we're temporarily confiscating your equipment until the next meeting. They took both my broken snowblower and the one I'd borrowed from Mike. I called my lawyer friend thinking this had to be illegal. But, get this, sometimes HOA as really do have the authority to enforce rules this way. It varies by state, he said. You'll have to fight it at the board. So I filed my formal complaint. In the meantime, another storm hit. I had no equipment, but I was still technically under contract. The streets weren't cleared. People started calling me, but when I explained, the neighborhood got mad at Karen. Petitions started circulating. By the time the emergency meeting rolled around, half the community had signed to have her removed. That night at the community center, the place was packed. I called Karen out loud enough for everyone to hear about the absurdity of the whole thing. For once, she didn't have control. Dale. My neighbor stood up and called out the whole system. Suddenly the room erupted. Everyone had a story about Karen's rules and fines. Tom, the landscaper board member, moved to return my equipment and issue a formal apology. The board voted. Karen lost. Within minutes, there was a motion to remove Karen as president. She stormed out, red-faced and muttering about proper leadership. The whole place cheered. It was like karma had finally shown up with a snowplow of its own. Linda, the new president, immediately set about making the rules more reasonable. The noise ordinance was rewritten. Most fines became warnings. That stupid thing about Christmas lights gone. I kept my contract as snow removal specialist with a raise and proper equipment coverage. The rest of winter went by smoothly, with neighbors leaving coffee and thank you notes instead of complaints. And Karen. She packed up and moved to Florida, rumored to be haunting a new HOA with even stricter rules. Couldn't have happened to a nicer person. Funny thing is, I learned more from that mess than any fresh start I thought I needed. The moral snuck up on me. Rules are fine until they become weapons. A community isn't a bunch of houses. It's people willing to stand up to each other and for each other, even if it's just about a snowblower. If you don't push back the Karens of the world, just keep rolling. I look back now and laugh. Dale and we became good friends, hosting barbecues, playing cards. Linda led the HOA with common sense, not a stick. The new folks who bought Karen's house asked nervously about the HOA. It's fine, I told them. Just don't hang neon lights and you'll be okay. We built something better together out of snow and stubbornness. And just when I thought Karen was gone for good, a letter showed up from a law firm in Florida. She was threatening to sue me for defamation for telling the truth about her reign of terror. My lawyer friend read the letter, snorted, and told me to frame it as a trophy. Truth is a defense, he said. She doesn't have a case. This is just her being Karen. Sometimes I wonder how many Karens does it take to screw in a light bulb. None. They'll just fine you for using the wrong wattage. But seriously, what's the right amount of rules for a neighborhood? When does keeping the peace turn into policing your neighbors for the thrill of it? I'd love to hear your take. Ever had to stand up to a petty tyrant? Do HO. As keep things nice, or just nice for the loudest voice in the room? Drop your story in the comments. Maybe together we can figure out where the line really is between order and overreach. Me, I'm just glad that in Briarwood Heights, the snow is cleared, the neighbors are happy, and my snowblower runs whenever I damn well please. And if another Karen comes knocking, well, I'll be ready.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video.